So next we move on to the panel discussions. And the first panel discussion that we have, there are three panel discussions which are supposed to be there in the post-lunch session. The first one is on the consumer evolution, redefining products, design, packaging for the modern markets. I really think that this is a very interesting panel discussion with a very varied panel. This panel is going to be moderated by Mr. Aditya Patwardhan. He's a director of Renault Paper Products Private Limited, and of course, the former MD of Manohar Packaging. We all know him since many years. Along with him, joining will be Arka Choudhury from Glassix India and Karninder Verma, the General Manager Marketing for AGI Greenpac.
Hello. Firstly, thank you, Bhavya and Trilokji, for having us here. Since it's post-lunch and we've had a long deliberation on FTA, some of us getting very emotional, we'll try and keep this light-hearted. Topic for today is consumer evolution and redefining products, design and packaging for modern markets. So starting with consumer evolution, I'd like to open with, this is a digital age. Times have changed, they're not changing, they've changed. Every single Gen Z kid nowadays has a gadget in their hand, and the amount of time they're spending on these gadgets connected online to the digital world, which has an endless amount of influences on their taste profiles subliminally, it is just phenomenal. So there's a vast lifestyle change, and these are your future consumers. So having said that, in parallel, it's time for us also in the alcoholic beverage industry to adopt these changes and to realize that what's worked in the past doesn't necessarily have to work today. Doesn't mean it won't work, but most of the people who have this international exposure are looking for something different. So the ordinary, the mundane may not necessarily work. And from what you can see in the rum space and the exciting gin space, everyone's experimenting. We're lucky to have very senior industry people who are experts in glass. I won't mention decartonization because that's a bit of a sensitive topic for me personally. But what's next? What's your most expensive constitution of the products you sell? Glass. What's the first thing that the consumer is going to hold in his hand now? Glass. We hope that may change from time to time, but glass is the most important aspect. And it really creates a serious impact to the consumer. It's an instant visual appeal. But before that, let me just, 1 second. Few pointers though over the years. I mean, we've done over 200 brands today. I'm happy to say most of the millionaires in the country have been born out of these tables. There's a lot one needs to do before getting onto the design table. You've got your brand, you've got your product. It's very important nowadays to understand where you want to be. Because what from personal experience and from dealing with a lot of marketers, you can't be everything to everybody. It's just not happening. So segments are getting more defined. There may be spillage across the borders, but they're getting far more defined. And this is happening. I mean, every year you'll see changes where people are micro-targeting certain profiles and sectors. So that's important. So it's important to know where you want to be. Secondly, it's important to know what budget you want to sell at, because we want this brand to survive. Not just, make a buzz. Thereafter, one gets into design routes. We always believe, understand, look at a few options, but see what your next generation, see what your future consumer is allied and intended to. And you'll see this from, for example, let's say we're all talking about foreign brands penetrating and exploding in India. If you look at a brand like Compass Box by Stranger & Stranger, that is next level design. They don't own their own bottling, they're contracting in Scotland. But in terms of design, it's made such an impact globally that these fringe ideas translate into India, and you'll see a lot of that happening here. Coupled with technology changes, which most importantly in glass, I think you'll have a huge amount of technology advancements from the old days. Coupled with technology changes, I think everything put together is what will work best for your future consumer. So, moving on to glass, uh, can you guys just highlight what's changed over the last 5 to 10 years in terms of the aspect, in terms of clients look at glass? Are they looking at value engineering? Are we looking at fancier glass? For example, I recall Finlandia when it launched, it was outstanding abroad. So, what's the Indian perspective, guys?
So I think when we go back to the basics, we have to start from what basically packaging meant earlier and what it means now. So if you look at packaging, how people used to, kind of perceive packaging as a carrier of the actual liquid which used to be supplied. Along with that, people used to look at the packaging in terms of cost. But if you look at, the current scenario, which is, currently how people are perceiving the same, the first thing that comes to people's mind is the aesthetics. The second thing people talk about is sustainability, which is, when we talk to people across the globe and, try to find out if out of two products, which would be your preference. One is a sustainable one, then the other one is a non-sustainable one. From in last 3 years, the percentage has moved from 73 to 81% in favor of the sustainable packaging. So sustainability is a big one. Then if we talk about, kind of personalization according to the brand is another feature that we are seeing across the board. And that, being said, especially for the current, generations like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, which we say, is very sensitive about, both sustainability as well as the personalization touch which can be given to the packaging part. Now, it goes without saying that when we have, population entering, this Gen Z and Gen Alpha entering this, drinking age at a scale of 18 to 22 million per year, obviously this is not a market that can be ignored. So people are now thinking from that perspective that out of the 5 senses that engage, obviously starting from the sight, the first thing that you hold on to is the sight. The next is going to be obviously once you open what is the sound of the bottle or what is the sound of the cork which is coming out. The third is going to be the smell, olfactics, and then next is going to be the taste. So out of all the senses which get engaged for any kind of experience, the first one is obviously the visual. So the packaging, if you see, becomes really important and crucial in especially generating the inquisitiveness for the product. So I think I'll stay there and then let my friend talk further on the same. Yeah.
So, Arka, since you've been designing glass for I don't know how many decades along with Sir, can you tell me, have there been any design-related changes in terms of good old shape? I mean, I remember we had about 4 or 5 generic shapes that kept going round and round, I say a few decades ago. So what's your perspective? Are clients coming in and showing you international shapes and saying, hey man, we want to be something like this?
So I think as far as shapes are concerned, we are now in a very diverse space. I think we have customized shapes for almost every brand that we see now, and of course not, because everybody is extremely informed about what's in the market, and they are competing against each other. They want to do better. We spoke about how there is osmosis of different persons coming into different companies, and in general, when it's just not the liquor companies or the beer or FMCG or all the associate vendors and stakeholders, we are all moving around the world. There is a fair amount of globalization that happens. We walk through a duty free, we see packaging that's so beautiful, and most often it's not an Indian product or an Indian bottle or things like that. And I think that resonates with a lot of stakeholders in India now, and everybody's trying to innovate and make that level of packaging in India, so that they can be proud and say that, this is made in India. And so as far as innovation is concerned, shapes is one, customized shape. There is customization on the shape, whether it's the old school emboss on the glass, or if it's decoration on the glass. There is marriage of that with other packaging aspects. There's a lot of innovations in caps, and accessories on the caps, and all of that has to work hand in hand. So I think design is an open road. There's a lot to do still.
So just to add on to what he just said, it is amazing to see that even the smaller companies, which are just budding companies, are investing on the mold sets, which cost around 7 to 8 lakhs per mold set. They are ready to invest on that to create a different identity. So as he's rightly pointing out, none of the guys are looking at a kind of off-the-shelf product. Everybody is trying to put the products in their own kind of shape, which matches the brand identity of their particular brand.
So let's just look back. I mean, recently, let's say about last 5 or 10 brands you all did. Can you name some that truly stand out and that have been validated by consumers? Most important.
You want to get me into trouble? If I name one, the other guy will.
Okay, this is a level playing field, guys. I mean, it's not one brand versus the other. But anything that's truly stood out. I mean, for me, Oaksmith has stood out. I mean, that was one that came out about 4 or 5 years ago that it truly looked different.
Right.
In
So
terms
I
of
think
glass.
what stood out is the color of the glass itself.
Yeah.
Rather than just having a conventional flint colored glass, the green color stood out. And of course, there has been green in the past, but it was well done, well packaged, well presented. And I think you will be seeing a lot more of that. While we have standard flint and green, but we also have, there is still amber, there is still super flint, which is the clear, crystal clear stuff, and there's still a lot you could do with it. So I think you'll see a lot more.
Is there any changes towards, I mean, I remember in the old days, and the first one I can recall, colored glass in a big way would have been antiquity in the Shaw Wallace days. Wasn't made in India then. But coming back to today, has there been any advancements in technology? Any quick fixes clients can use without spending too much money to get some color on their bottle?
Yeah. So just to pursue further the same conversation that we were trying earlier. So right now the antiquity is made by AGI. AGI is the only company which has got the color Furath, which has got the capability to produce colored glass. Many of my friends who are sitting here would be very much aware, including the Bulldog team, and then you have the PAGSM, and obviously Diageo is there. So we have already started producing from the colored Furath, and we also have the decoration capabilities. Whatever world-class decoration people would have imagined earlier was not possible. We have the kind of facilities available, and we are also exploring with some more people what further can be done to kind of give everything to the customer from an indigenous perspective rather than just importing the stuff.
So that's good to know. So I mean, we are advancing across technologies, including glass. Getting back to design, though, being the core, I think that's the single most powerful aspect that can make or break a brand. I truly believe that design styles are changing. And it's not, I mean, there's nothing to prove. Walk into the fancy modern retail in Gurgaon itself, and the number of brands that you'll see are phenomenal. Now, a consumer can tell a Me Too from a mile away, and they're getting smarter every day. They may not repeat order a poor blend in a fancy pack, but they'll definitely pick it up the first time. And I've evidenced this myself, having spent many an hour doing market research on consumer behavior and retail. So the most important thing, at least for me, would be get your design right, get your design route right. try and be a bit off the cuff, because nowadays there's so many handcrafted, there's so many ways one can translate the same brand name into design, and thereafter onto pack, onto the entire product capped, filled. So design, second thing within design is colors. We're done with our old traditional colors that we've been seeing in the market for, I think, decades now. You'll be seeing a lot of new, for example, single malts are popping. They're using modern, bright, younger colors, which is something that's quite a drastic change. And owing to that, a lot of local blends and a lot of Indian products also are trying to experiment. Case in point, for example, I recall when we did Sterling Reserve for ABD, I mean, that was a typical Mera Wala color. This is not an Asian Paints ad, but we actually spent a hell of a lot of time on formulating those colors in the kitchens. Likewise, the Black Dog 14-year-old, I mean, that's a bespoke color. Never been done before. It was something that just came, and in fact, it was last minute. It was supposed to be blue, ironically, coming from the red, black, and blue familiarity of Diageo. So these things, I personally believe, are extremely important, and one shouldn't be dropping budgets when it comes to design, because that's going to make or break the product, or definitely get it moving and get recognition off the shelf. Likewise, design, Arka, any new techniques, anything different,
Well,
anything.
you just mentioned color. Color is, it in itself is such a huge.
So is that the new buzzword now?
You can make anything the buzzword as long as there is drive to do something with it. So like when you mentioned color, now in recent times we've seen Jamun gin come out, which was inspired by just a bowl of Jamun fruits kept on the table, and we wanted that color in, and easier said than done. Took some time to get that color out, but then that's the color now, and so then we have literally removed any Pantone number from it and just call it Jamun Purple, and that's the color that we are doing on the Jamun bottle, and that's the point. Please go crazy. I mean, we have captains of the industry here who are sitting and they want to do something new and different or innovative. Go ahead. I probably would like to mention, Mr. Verma mentioned in that he has, I mean, he's doing so many colors in AGI as well. Unfortunately, India is a bit market driven when it comes to innovation. So we need utilization of capacities in order to free up time and funds for innovation.
Arka, consumer perspective topic.
Sure. But for the consumer, if we have guys here who are using these facilities that are available, it opens up avenues for more colors, you know. And I think Mr. Verma mentioned 2, 3, but there are so many that you can do the aqua blue with the complete sky sort of look, and we can go we've not even talked about metallic colors and so on. So there's so much you could do with colors, and it's just not that. You can even go further. We're seeing bottles, tequila bottles in Mexico, which is 100% recycled glass. So that's like on the viewpoint of sustainability. This is something that you want to be or want to do for being a bit more carbon positive. And 100% recycled glass means entire thing is no virgin batch. The whole thing is just made from glass. It has all kinds of embellishments on the body, but that's the look. That's the push.
Those would also be to disguise the imperfections of recycled glass, I presume.
But it's
as a design concept.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
which is quite cool.
It's celebrated. It is being celebrated that there are embellishments, but that is raw glass by itself. It's what you want it to be. There's only so much that packaging guys can do. A lot of it depends on the marketing guys, on how they can run the brand story and push it forward or drive it forward.
What about lightweighting? That's been a craze. I mean, everyone wants to save money. No doubt the alcoholic beverage industry has gone through turmoil like most other industries pre and post-COVID. saving a buck is of imperative importance. Balance sheets need to get stronger. So, a layman's question to you from a non-technical glass guy. Can you lightweight yet retain premiumization in terms of embossing, etc.? Because they're totally contradictory. Any ingenious ideas there?
Consumer standpoint, so our first consumer, I guess, is the liquor company, the buyer itself, or any beverage company. And lightweighting is a topic that is very much doing the rounds. I'm going to let Mr. Verma say this because he has the highest capability, AJ has the highest capability in lightweighting technologies. But I would say it need not necessarily compromise on quality at all. It's just to make sure the right technology is used in the right for the right design. And in this case, Aditya, your the glass design is important, but and then going forward, the benefits are for everybody to enjoy. But why don't you?
So it goes without saying that because of the excess pressure which kind of is put on the liquor industry or the alcohol industry, um, as a consequence of not getting any kind of price increases for years altogether, and we know that the grains have shot over the roof, and obviously because of the soda ash, the glass prices had also gone up significantly. We understand as a partner to all of our customers that there is a need of lightweighting or rather reduction in the cost. So for that, I will just give you a very small example. One of the bottles that we were selling to our customer at around 550 odd grams. So we have reduced that to now around 390 odd grams, which is around 30% reduction in the weight. So lightweighting is definitely possible. But again, not everybody would be comfortable with the lightweighting, considering that if somebody is wanting to project something on the design, so it might not exactly sync with the personality of the brand and the personality of the bottle or the design of the bottle which is there. So it is a very subjective discussion. Although if you ask me in terms of lightweighting, definitely we are in it, and there is a technology called NNPB, and we are well equipped with that. We are using that for last around a decade or so now, and for beer bottles, more than 35% weight has already been reduced, and we are doing the same for liquor bottles also. Yeah.
So, guys, that's a few pointers on glass technology, since we have some experts here in terms of printing, packaging, colors, design. Happy to answer any questions you all may have, but let's make this a bit more interactive, if you all don't mind. Can we throw this open to everybody? Any questions, guys? Any particular points related to matters where all domain experts are here?
Two questions. Number one is, you guys mentioned, of course, about lightweighting, naturally. Do you foresee that being a much bigger trend moving forward? I mean, of course, most of the brands are doing it under sustainability because they're trying to get rid of their cartons, mono cartons, and XYZ. So do you see that as a trend moving forward, which is going to horizontally go on to a lot more product lines, different segments as well? Number two is more from a consumer pattern perspective, a buying pattern perspective. While I know that, of course, everybody in the industry spends a lot of time in designing, packaging, and of course, do you feel that a lot of the decision or the consumer buying decision is based more from what comes from a taste perspective? Because usually it takes only 5 to 6 or 7 seconds for a consumer when they're going, especially on retail, to really just swoop through all the brands. Then how much of what would you say is that bifurcation in terms of the percentage between the two? Is it more of taste and less of packaging, and probably how much would that be?
So before we get on to the lightweighting, I'll just address the last one. So from what we've read, studied, researched, and seen, and across the many brands we've done, the consumer's decision is the overall feeling, embodiment, the energy that that brand and its design is emitting on a shelf. It could be something as simple as a brand name that's loud and striking. It could be the aesthetics involved with the design. It could be, it's something that will click in his psyche that tells him, hey, I like this. This is working for me. Let me check it out. However, if the drinking, the consumption experience doesn't support whatever's working for him in terms of the design and the brand, 9 out of 10 times you may not have a repeat customer. But yes, the overall look and feel of the product on the shelf would make him curious for sure. But we've seen consumers pick up products for the first time out of curiosity just by alarming design, let's put it that way, radical design, and it lives. For example, again, I keep going back to it because I know the designers personally, they're some of my friends, is Compass Box. I urge you all to please study that brand because it will open your eyes. It'll definitely open your eyes. So over to the glass perspective, guys.
In fact, just to add on what you just mentioned, Aditya, the first impression. So actually, there was a study I think that was done in Chicago's Design Institute, and what they had a very interesting way of presenting it, and the summary of that was that packaging is the first impression. It's literally 5 seconds where the consumer decides whether he likes it or not. It's love at first sight, and of course, everything inside is also important because that will say whether he or she will buy it the second time or not. So I think packaging from that perspective is probably best said, first impression, and whether you come back to buy it or not is the stuff inside, that's for sure.
I just have a question. Sorry, Aditya, it's me. Hi.
Hi, Amit.
Hi. This is basically to the point which was just discussed right now between sustainability and now where else in the corporate world we talk about ESG as well, you know. So keeping a balance on the corporate responsibility, ESG and the sustainability, a lot of international companies or like the MNC companies like Pono and Diageo and stuff, other MNCs have started to do away with mono cartons and stuff like that, you know, that's the first mover advantage, or that's how the examples, they are leading the way by showing that that's what they mean by doing business and that's how we should do things to save the environment and the planet, etc. But just like when you have a consumer sitting elsewhere, not in India, and for overseas exports or anywhere else in the world, they would also not understand the relevance or the importance of this ESG or sustainability, because right now also when you want to export or when you see these people wanting to buy brands, and when you try to, of course you are working towards the bigger goal about ESG sustainability, but these guys always say, where's the mono carton? If the mono carton is not there with the bottle or the brand, then the brand perceives to be at a different segment or a lower strata in the product category. How can one address that, or how would you know?
Great question, Amit. So I'm not going to opine on the decision of the industry took to decartonize because there were cost pressures, and we totally agree with them. Because at the end of the day, your P&L is most important. There's no point selling liquor if you're not going to make money in the process. But there's one myth I'd love to bust. I don't know who's gone in and created this false impression that mono cartons are not sustainable. Because trees are growing. There's more replantation happening than deforestation globally. They're biodegradable. Post-consumer waste, they're biodegradable. So, sustain have been the great marketing excuse for to inform the consumer that hey, your product no longer has a carton. Now, I won't get into whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, but what I see it as is a great opportunity for a lot of companies who don't have ATL budgets through the roof, who cannot afford, to sponsor fashion shows that are televised and have Priyanka Chopra strutting around for you. I mean, that's a great opener because you go to a consumer and you show him a cartonized versus a non-cartonized product. I don't think I need to tell you which one he's going to pick up. Take the same brand, put one next to the other and see which one he picks up. Same brand. I mean, that's an acid test, right? Monkey-proof qualitative analysis. So anyway, let's not get there. It's a sensitive topic, but my friends here would love the fact that what's next? The glass. With market recyclable bottles, which all the big guys are doing in a big way, Pernod Ricard, Diageo, ABD, you name them, and they're going higher and higher across brand segments. It's not that, they're only the bottom categories are being recycled. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll put a little bit more food for thought here. That so I don't think the monocarton has necessarily disturbed glass packaging or glass cost in any which way. Absolutely. So by removing monocartons, the glass price has not increased, or nothing has happened to the glass industry from that standpoint. So here it probably calls for a bit more pragmatic or progressive thinking. Maybe we have to think of other measures. We know that the quad pack has a bit more affordability. The nip pack doesn't. Maybe we do the monocarton for quad, not for the nip, because nip is fast moving. It's a quick drink and throw sort of segment. We have a lot of segmentation now as compared to, let's say, 20 years ago. The same company will have 10 brands which are all at 10 different price points. It's not on the same horizontal. They are completely different segments altogether, and which all calls for different packaging. So I think what a lot of it has been going around in other countries, which is the hybrid style of packaging, where you have the same brand, but it has different packagings at different segments. So for example, Mr. Dekhi had mentioned about the pouch, which is a great one maybe for the 90 ml, which is not very sustainable, or 50 ml, which is not very sustainable for glass manufacturing per se. And that goes into the Tetra Pak. But you have a 750 ml in a wonderful glass with a wonderful monocarton, as beautiful as it can be. Absolutely, absolutely.
So we have 5 minutes left is what I'm told, since we're late.
Yeah, so I'll just add my 2 cents here. First is, I think so everybody judges the book by its cover. It is absolutely wrong to say that don't judge the book by its cover. The first thing that is going to hit is the cover. So I also resonate with the person who said that mono carton was a good way of showcasing the kind of brand that it has. Second, I think so the question was on the lightweighting, wherein you asked in specific, what is going to be the future trend that way. I think lightweighting will continue to happen because it is not only a question of cost, it is also a question of sustainability. But we have to be smart enough to understand that the bottle has to be strong enough to not break after one rotation. Because if you see the beer bottles are getting recirculated as high as 7 to 8 times. So if that recirculation percentage goes down, it is again the same thing. It is going to hit on your pocket as well as it is going to hit on the sustainability part. One point which I think he just touched upon, I would just like to put out a few facts on the table so that there is no room of doubt on the packaging part. First is, anybody knows in the room how much of the plastic which has been produced since day one has been recirculated or recycled so far? Only 9%.
Are you serious? That's it?
Just 9%.
Whereas cartons, caps can be 100% reused in other shapes or forms.
Yeah, but then it has to be either downcycled or it will be just kind of, floating in the ocean, or it will be on the landfills, or it will be converted to maybe some kind of oil. But actual reuse or proper recycling at the same scale is only 9%. First thing. Second thing, I think the team has to know that way that glass is 100% recyclable, right? So you can use this glass bottle, you can break it, you give it back to me, I'll recycle it in the same bottle. It doesn't matter. The quality doesn't go down, right? And it is infinitely reusable also. Like, for example, many of you would have bought something as a food confectionery or something from maybe a shop. And then the typical habit of Indian people is that you will fill something else in it if you're not using for the same purpose. So there is absolutely no harm in doing that. And third thing is, as you rightly pointed out, it's an energy intensive industry and it calls for a lot of energy, right? But let me bust that myth also. So from the energy perspective, it has to be understood that companies like us have already reached to a recycling a percent or renewable energy percentage at around 20%. We are in discussion with different agencies to go for PPAs to make sure that we use only renewable energy tomorrow. And third thing is, we are the only company in India who has got a tie-up with government of Telangana, and we are kind of in the middle of an experiment wherein we are trying to use hydrogen as a fuel. So if that happens, I think so most of the things are taken care of from the sustainability perspective.
Now,
And I
that's
think
really
so it will
good to know,
become
actually.
a
That's
better
really
thing.
exciting. Do we have one last question? I believe the lady there had one. Or are we out of time, guys? Please.
Please, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that, like, now the consumer is more experimental, but wasn't Oken Glow packaging before time?
Sorry, can you come
Oken,
again?
like a decade back, 2 decades back, Oken Glow packaging was before time because it was not
Oken Glow, you mean?
yeah, Oken
Definitely
Glow.
before its time.
Because its packaging and those days was very experimental, but it was not well accepted. What do you say about it?
So I honestly don't recall what Oken Glow looked like 10 years ago, but I did see it on the shelves yesterday with a burnt cutout of something to represent oak or wood. And that struck, maybe because it had a carton that was so striking. But as of, from what I saw, I recall some hoardings, etc., with imagery, with some wood backgrounds. I think it was perfectly fine.
Because in those days it was quite subtle color, like they used very subtle color in those days where lot of garishing colors were used for in those days,
But those days, India was Technicolor. I mean, things were louder than they needed to be. They still are in many a case, but that's changing. That's changing very fast with the new breed of colors. So, Bhavya, should we take one more?
That's
Sh-
typically of a Japanese color, very subtle, light.
Yeah,
Subtle,
actually,
low,
actually, in-
minimalistic.
But they change over the times now.
Okay.
They have got to change.
So then maybe it was way ahead of his time.
yeah, so it is, I think, changed now. You're right, Aditya.
Yeah, now it's a new one. We've
Yeah,
made it
because
more
when we
Indian
redesigned
adaptable.
The bottle, we were given the brief of it having this sort of craft look, and the idea was to have a more smoky liquid profile, and so to sort of enhance that. And it was also a very clear discussion that it should not look very close to the BlenderSprite option. So we had to go really
Same company. So.
Exactly. So,
Plagiarism is
so
allowed.
that's why we had to go polar opposite on the looks of it. But I think Pernod Ricard guys will be there in the evening and they can tell you more.
May have
about
been
that
ahead of its
story.
time. There are many a brand
Yeah.
that were ahead of their time, but some stuck on, some didn't.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Please, a huge round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much, guys, for a very interesting one. There were a lot of questions, and I'm sure that they'll be coming offline more as well.